Adam once talked about how some child stars get used in films often when they aren't great actors, and eventually, when they grow up, they don't get roles and sometimes will have a very hard adult life. So my question is, what's something that the movie industry can do to prevent exploitation of child stars so their lives aren't ruined when they get older?
Hire them for their acting abilities. Maybe do a bit more of a casting process than they're like, they're cute and they're also a nephew of somebody I know. Like, because then you're kind of being an abusive asshole because you're setting themselves up, you're setting them up for failure.
Yeah. You're setting them up for, that's true. Yeah, you're supposed to be like the kind of, I don't know the word, gatekeeper of like, well, I'm going to say this kid's a bad actor, but at least I get to say it and not like a million other people, like Jake Lloyd or whatever, like with Star Wars. Like, you know, like for a movie like that, they should have gone,
Yeah, like that altered the trajectory of his life. Like, it almost single-handedly ruined his life being in that movie.
Yeah, it's the biggest, it's like obviously going to be a fucking huge movie. It's Star Wars. Like, they should have thought about that. Not Jake Lloyd himself. Yeah.
Yeah, it ruins the lives of like adult actors, let alone when like kids that young are involved. You know, he was like, what, like 8?
Yeah, the guy who played Jar Jar too got all kinds of like, you know, hate and racism and whatever. Like, he's just an actor. Like, what the fuck? I mean, to some extent too, like, people are assholes. Like, they shouldn't be saying things like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
You don't need to like harass the kid or the actor.
But it's hard enough for an adult to try and like deal with that kind of overwhelming feedback. But when it is a child, it is like, man, Georgie, you really didn't think about this one. It's kind of like it's abuse. It's like really fucked up.
It really is.
Yeah, or like a lot of those Disney stars, like Disney, they make them into actors and musicians and whatever. Like, I don't know if they're capable of doing all these things. Maybe they are, but like, you know, sometimes they're not. Like yeah.
I mean, it's a weird cultural thing where, you know, sometimes we turn children into like celebrities, and that's kind of just weird and creepy to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Like if you want to have child characters in a movie, I guess like we got to have child actors, but to like do the whole, you know, celebrity culture thing on them is like really kind of, you're creating a fucked up human being.
Yeah.
Is what you're doing. If they're not already fucked up, you're making them fucked up.
How are you supposed to be grounded if you're like Millie Bobby Brown, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's
right.
The feedback you get and just the onslaught of like just bullshit and hatred.
Yeah. Can these people even like go to a restaurant or do anything? Like, you know, like how I do? Or can they go to like McDonald's without being like, oh my God, you're Millie Bobby Brown? You know, I just think about that. Probably not. They probably just can't even like function.
Depending on where.
I guess depending on where.
Yeah.
Well, like Brooklyn's kind of a cool place. Like, you know, you hear stories like Zoe Kravitz walking around or whatever. Like, no one bothers her because it's like a cool area. Or like the guy from Succession, Macaulay Culkin's brother. I forgot his name.
Kinnear.
But yeah, like there's no, and they're adults too, right? But there's definitely like cool environments like where people aren't like that. But you know, there's just a lot of people who are just like, oh my God, you're Millie Bobby Brown or whatever. And, you know, like if I get that, I don't get it as often, so it's much less like stressful to deal with. But I'm sure like
Kieran Culkin, that was his name. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm sure if you're like a super famous like Miley Cyrus or someone like that, like I'm sure you can't go anywhere.
No.
You can't do anything that like normal people do, like go to a store or like go to like as go to get like fast food or like, you know, just normal shit, like go to 7-Eleven, like get shit, like pick up a case of beer. Like you can't do anything. Yeah.
Celebrity culture is just like so obnoxious, honestly.
Yeah.
It is obnoxious, yeah.
Like there's a big difference between like respecting someone for their work and just, you know, trying to
hero worship,
to convince yourself that you have done something in the universe and that you're not insignificant because you saw someone that's famous, right? At Toronto Film Festival, there's like people go for different reasons. I'm there for the movies, but there's so many people that are there to just be like, I got, like to smooze with like the big actors, or there's the red carpet thing outside of some of the theaters, like one of the big theaters where they have like the fancy premium premieres or whatever, and they have the red carpet set up, and there's people just like with lawn chairs behind the barricade ready to take pictures, like not professionals, but like just people who are just gawking at celebrities. They don't even know who's coming out of the limo, but they're ready. They're like, I want to get a signature by any famous person. And it's like, do you respect their craft? Like, do you like them? Like, it's just they're famous. Like, it's just kind of annoying.
Oh, it's very annoying.
Yeah.
I've never understood that.
It's, this weird, like, soft deification of human beings that we've done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's toxic.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Not much good comes from it.
Yeah. And then and then inevitably we see the same thing like being applied to children. It's like, okay, stop that. Just stop.
Because whenever there's a kid in a movie, it's already like an uphill battle to like prove and earn like the place in the story and like justify the performance and everything. Like, just trying to avoid it for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Depends on how you use kids in movies and what kind of story you want to tell, but yeah, just sometimes seems inevitable to...
I feel there are, like, celebrities. I don't mind celebrity, but I feel like there's certain people who are celebrities and they want to be celebrities, and that's, like, their whole MO, and that's why they're fine.
Yeah.
Like, Tom Cruise is a celebrity. Like, I don't feel bad giving him attention. He clearly must want it, or like the financial gains from it.
Or like The Rock, or someone like that.
The Rock. Yeah. So people like that.
But then there's people like Beyonce that like never do any interviews and are always like so reclusive, but that adds to the mystique and that adds to the allure. And then people treat her like a real god, and people get even more obsessed with it because she's out of the spotlight, that anytime someone sees her, they're like, ah! It's like, holy shit.
Yeah, you can't really win in that position.
No.
From that perspective, anyway.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, just cancel yourself. Post a funny tweet.
It's a hard thing to balance. Yeah. It's a hard thing to balance. That's part of like a musician's appeals, like mystique or like your character. But yeah, it's not an excuse to like be like a unrealistic like human being, or like be like so out of touch with like other people. Yeah. Well, she just like hides for like a year or whatever.
Yeah,
that's what she does. I don't even know. Like I don't know what Beyonce does. She's not on my radar. Like, yeah, it's just like a certain audience, they like that. I don't know. I'm not inherently against like celebrity. I am mostly with like child stars because it's just like it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy for them.
I'm not against like people being in magazines or on television, or more people seeing or consuming a product because someone's associated with it. I'm not against that, but people need to like
that's like
lower, just like calm things down a bit and remember that these are just other human beings. Like, they're people.
Yeah.
They're people.
It's just like marketing. Yeah.
They're not gods.
Like, oh, this is the new star. Yeah. I don't like think about Tom Cruise like all the time. Like, if I see him on a poster, I'm like, oh, it's a new Tom Cruise movie. Yeah. I'm going to see it.
Yeah.
That looks good. I'm not like obsessed with Tom Cruise. I have like a cork board of his photos and like calling him every day or whatever. Yeah. But I don't feel most people are that way. I feel like if you're that way, you have some kind of problem you need to work out yourself. Like,
yeah,
it's not always just like the celebrity
it's
their fault.
There's something about like film and TV, it's just always boiled down into this emphasis on the actors specifically.
Yeah,
it's always about the actors. Like, you sell movies on actors.
They're the ones you see, and it's like it's almost like this godlike position, like, oh, I want to be the guy on TV. But, you know, like, if people stopped treating celebrities like they were such fucking gods, like, maybe you actually have a chance of being on TV. Because you just, you know, you're a more realistic person. You'd be like, oh, like, you could actually get hired in a part. And you're not just, like, inflating this other guy and, like, having him take parts away from you. And, it's just, like, silly to, like, idolize people like that. To, like, an unrealistic, unhealthy degree. To some degree, sure. To like a little bit, like there's nothing wrong with looking up to people.
Yeah, to respect and admire someone whose art you love.
Yeah, for inspiration for their craft.
Whether that's art is acting or writing or whatever. There's nothing wrong with praising for things that you connect with and things that you appreciate. But like, fuck, are you like when people like steal their like little bits of clothing off of people at, like in concerts or whatever. They like they're like, oh, I got it. Like like
cut off a bit of hair or something.
Yeah, like just crazy people.
That's like shit like Elvis did. Yeah, that's like shit from like the 60s. Yeah, it's like so dated.
Just stop screaming.
Women ripping off clothes and taking his scarves, and I'm excited for that new Elvis movie. I feel like that's part of what that movie's about.
Isn't that out already?
It is. I got to see it soon. I've just been so busy.
Oh yeah, it's
I won't be.
I feel like that's like part of that movie. Is like, you know, Elvis is like, he is, you know, he's Elvis. He's like such a character,
the king.
Yeah.
People did that with Michael Jackson to a huge degree too.
People just like screaming. People were screaming when he came and like trying to take like stuff off his body, like his clothes, and like fucking wild. Like I can't imagine being that person.
Yeah.
And what it must take to like, you know, society wise and like culture and like the kind of like marketing to like create that. Like I don't even think that's possible anymore. And yeah, it's just like this guy like fucking gyrating his hips. Like it's so odd. Yeah.